Meeting of the Washara County Board of Supervisors to order. We'll start out with roll call. Okay, and everyone is here. So with that, then, if you'd stand, we'll stand for the silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, you were all sent an agenda. If you had a chance to look that over, is there any additions or corrections to that agenda? Okay, hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve it. Moved by Mr. Gray, second by Ms. McCormick. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, and you were also sent the minutes of the September 17th, 2024 monthly meeting. Is there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Okay, seeing none, I would look for a motion to approve them. Motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Bossert. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, very good. Public comments. We have one. Sam Wood.
So yesterday I received a phone call from a citizen that said that Washara County decided to pull campaign signs from the state highways. I went to the county and it was verified they had 3 employees all pulling signs. It was bipartisan. They pulled everybody's sign, thank God. Before I got to it was Trump. Probably the person I got Ruth checking into it, who gave the order, I think is applying for county job, and I made it no secret that I don't like George and I. But we advocated 3 people to go pull signs in the most volatile represented election probably I know in my lifetime. Some of you are a little older and probably remember the Reagan a little bit maybe before me, but I don't know if it was that volatile. But it's a serious thing because I get told I Bruce checking into it, and I did get a hold of the DOT, and I pulled up, and I was told how they do it. Improper sign placement. The company's not. They say they don't recommend the county go out and just look for it. Opens up a can of worms. Signs that are in the immediate right away in a triangle vision at an intersection or whatever should be removed immediately. I 100% agree. Signs that are in the right of way, they say should be tagged, 72-hour notice. I think it's a giant waste of time. I think it's you guys are gonna have to answer to it. The signs are missing. They say they put them in people's driveways or back in their yards. Truthfully, if you took a sign down in somebody's yard today, they came home after work, what do you think they did with the sign? We put it back up. It's a giant waste of time, giant waste of resources. We're always told that you guys are shorthanded. That's where I'm at. I know he's applying for a job. I made it no secret that I don't like the guy. He attacked me. You guys are in a lawsuit. I get it. But just there needs to be some answers. These people mow their grass all the way up to the right of way. They mow their grass past the right of way. And somebody from this county decided it was the best use of a resource to go fire up a bunch of people. I made a post. I'm good at firing people up. They're going to get fired up over this one. So that's all I got. Some of the other stuff you guys are doing, I just said in those last, what is it called? Strategic planning. Strategic planning. That was an eye-opening deal. I know you guys got a rough road ahead of you, and I bust your chops, but that's what I do. But there's some things you guys are doing good. But this one, if anything, take that into consideration when somebody's applying for a job tomorrow. Thanks.
Okay, there's no unfinished business. So we'll move into new business, reports and presentations. First is County Administrator's monthly report with our Corp Counsel and our interim administrator themselves.
Okay, so since the last meeting, when the Y project was approved, all of the documentation has been sent down to the State Historical Society with the plan so that they can come and take all of the pictures and stuff that they want to update the registry for the removal of the portion of the courthouse that is from the registry. The survey to divide the property from the Historical Society and the rest of it is in its final stages and should be approved by the city by the end of the month. We did get our demo bids back. We had 9 bids, I think it was. We'll be reviewing those with facilities on Thursday at their meeting to move forward with that. I've been told that the parking lot the contractor will be here next week to start that project. The extension of the chain link fence around the air handler system should be happening in the next week or so, and then we can have the final have the measurements made for the sound curtains to buffer some of that sound for our neighbors. So that project is moving forward. We're working on, we had 4 townships whose contracts were up with the highway department regarding snow plowing and summer work. So I've reached out to all of their all of the town clerks, and so we're working on getting those updated. We are doing interviews for highway commissioner tomorrow. And then as I was meeting with Paul from solid waste about some of the, we had one day when waste management didn't come pick up some of the compactors and dump them that they were supposed to. And so then we started talking about it, and we had gotten some information from solid waste about things that are in the county's contract that seem like they should be also in the villages contracts that the villages have. So I'm gathering all of that information. At least in looking at Wild Rose's contract today, it appears that we're not being double billed. So I'm very happy about that. So we're gathering all of that information. Once we do have a new highway commissioner and solid waste person, one of the things that is on task to do is we need to update our county solid waste plan. And so we'll need to be looking at all of those things, but we're gathering all of that information from waste management right now so we can answer all of those questions as it goes to, and it has to do with disposal fees and like, that's not with waste management, it's in waste management's contract, but it's with Valley Trail who operates the landfill. And so anyways, learning a lot about landfills this week. So we'll keep you posted on that. And otherwise, there is also going to be the Community Foundation from Oshkosh is having a public meeting regarding the Y project as they're involved in that. I did forward you all an email that you can register. So that meeting is a virtual meeting in November. So if you're interested in what the Community Foundation is doing to help support that project, that is on there. And I think that you all know that they did receive a grant from the state for $4.2 million going through the city of Wautoma. So the governor did announce that last week. So they're getting very close to having their funding. So hopefully once we get everything ready, they will be able to move forward with that in the spring.
Okay, very good. Is there any questions for Ruth?
Ruth, I didn't know if I heard you, but the used to be the Jude home on Wapaka Street, is
Yep.
that being considered for demolish?
Yes, so when we put the demolition of the courthouse and the north annex out for bid, we added as a secondary bid the old nursing home. And so the bids that we'll be going over at facilities do have one bid that is the project for the courthouse at North Annex, and then one project that is the nursing homes that are separated out so that the committee can see the differences in the price. I am happy to say that I am very pleased with the bids, and that if the committee agrees to do both projects, the low bid for all three, to do all three buildings, is less than the $1 million that we had talked about originally for the courthouse in North Annex. So we got really good numbers, and so I'm hopeful that we will be able to get rid of that building as well, and then have be able to sell that off through our tax deed process as something that's ready to build, and maybe some new homes or something can go there, because it is a very residential area, but something that will benefit the community rather than this building that is just continuing to deteriorate.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, and we'll move into the 2025 proposed budget. You all were sent that budget in your packet, so with Ruth Zalski again.
Soon it will not be the Ruth show, right? We're gonna get rid of Ruth and let somebody else be in charge. So let's just, I don't know where I point this thing. I did turn it on, but you, do you have a plug? Yeah, I turned it on. Okay.
There, it's going.
All right, so this is just an overview of what our timeline looks like every year. As most of you are aware of, we do start the budgeting process again in March of each year, going over the CIP. We did make some changes this year on how that works with the strategic planning committee, and so we get the departments started looking at all of that so we can get all of that information in. So strategic planning can be reviewing that in May through June. In May, the executive committee starts to review positions and reclassifications. We did not look at any positions this year, other than there was a couple for human services that we needed to add to meet our census requirements, but those are positions that are completely billable. You've already approved those. And then we did have the positions for medical examiner this year and the jail sergeant, as well as talking about finance. Then we start to do all the budget worksheets, and in September, Megan and Sarah and I met with every department and went over all of their budget requests to try to put together something, and then we are now today presenting to you the proposed budget so that you have time to ask questions tonight, and you have a couple of days to look it over, and then we'll have our public hearing in November, and that's the first Tuesday of November. So the meeting does change to accommodate the statutory requirements, because Sarah has to have the appropriations sent to the state by a certain time, so that happens. Well, it was working. The light went off, Barry. It was green, now it's not.
I can just click it for you. Give them a clapper.
Yeah, we're-
They'll know when to do it.
Okay, so that was the timeline. Oh, okay. And then again, the budget hearing is November 5th. So here is what our benefits update is proposed for 2025. The health insurance did come in at a 0% increase. We had switched insurance companies last year. They had given us a not to exceed 9%, and then we did come in with a 0%. So that has been wonderful. I'm worried about what's going to be next year, but for this year it's 0%. Dental and health are total voluntary. The employees pay the full cost of that. But those benefits didn't really change in cost either, so we stayed with the same for that. I know at exec, I said I thought that the wage scale was a 2.5% COLA. It wasn't, it was only a 2% COLA. So that is what was added to the wage scale. And then, of course, the union contracts follow that. Plus, anybody who is on a step, as you know, our wage scale currently has 10 steps. So if you still had to move up a step, you would still get your steps. So that's all worked into this current budget. We did have human services account clerk was reclassified as part of a retirement. There was no levy impact on that. And the Department of Aging Finance position also had some changes due to us becoming a single county ADRC in January. So, and as that ADRC, as we continue to meet with the state for that transition, you may see some more changes, but we're not anticipating any impact to the tax levy. We did approve new positions, 2 deputy medical examiners at 30 hours a week. So there was that increase. We also, since the time that was approved, Marquette County had put out an email to all the surrounding counties asking if anybody would be interested in helping with this. We did discuss that with their county administrator, Megan, their county board chair, Amanda Toma, our medical examiner. We all met, and Amanda believes that she will be able to, based upon what their census is and the type of deaths that they have, be for hospice based, will be able to assist them without any additional staff. So we are working on finalizing a contract with them that will give us about $70,000 of income to help offset the additional cost for the medical examiners' new positions. The jail sergeant is still in there in the position. And then you did approve a full-time finance position to start in January. As we got closer to putting the numbers together tonight in our proposed budget, we are recommending that that position be moved to a later start date in July. We think that there is some efficiencies possibly. We're looking to get a proposal from our auditors to have somebody who is well-versed in county finances to come look at some of our processes to see if there are ways that we can do less steps to get the results that we need and free up some time, and that maybe this isn't a position that we need, or maybe this position can be repurposed to something that we need besides just in the finance realm, but not necessarily what we thought that it would be. So before we hire something, we're trying to get more information. The capital building projects, as you know, we have completed the Poisippi Center. We've completed the Watoma EMS, the highway, and the government center. We're still tying up some of those bills and things like that. So the debt service budget for 2025 had gone up this year with our debt payment. It was going to be $5.52 million or 5.42. We are proposing in the budget, as you'll recall, when we took out the bond, we were able to get some of that bond money prior to having to pay bills, and we were able to, the way it was structured, put it into a higher investment account. And so we've been earning interest on that money. And so we're proposing to use $400,000 of that interest that we're anticipating still continuing to earn in 2025. At the end of 2025, any money left in the bond, in the building project, will have to go into a different type of investment account to meet the bonding requirements. But there'll be some, we anticipate that there'll be some money left that we'll be able to leverage to help adjust and soften the debt payment every year, so that the entire debt service does not have to go on the tax levy. I know that that's always confusing for people. There are certain things, so with the tax levy limits, our operating budget is required to only increase by 2% or no growth, whatever is less. So we'll get to a slide about that. Debt service is one of the things that's outside the levy limit. So when you see that the debt service is going up by more than what I tell you that our new growth is because it's outside of the levy limit, but it all does go on the levy. So we're trying to soften some of that blow by applying some interest to that, and then have a long-term plan for some of our savings from our building to be able to help cushion that blow, because that $5.5 million, $5.425 million debt service payment is what the payment is going to be for the next 20 years. So we're looking at trying to soften that each year. So we are currently still have some things that we're working on with the building project. The remodel of the old highway shop to house the body cooler and Amanda's personnel. The parking lot is going to be started in the near future, next week, I think. The chiller at the jail needs to be addressed. We have not finished the epoxy in the tunnel in the holding cell, so that's to help with the protect the concrete. So that is still coming. We have some roofs at the Parks Department that need to be looked at. There's some flooring issues in the jail area that we are investigating that may need to become the sound curtains go along with the fence to help buffer some of the noise for the neighborhood. The relocation of the 2 statues in at the courthouse. So we're getting costs on what it would cost to relocate those. And then of course the demolition of the building. So those are things that are still set to come out of our bonding money. So this is the allocation sheet for the projected 2025 tax levy to the departments. As you'll know here, that again, there is an overall increase to the tax levy of about $600,000. This is proposing about a 46-cent decrease in the mill rate for next year. It also does have us applying about $1.5 million to the from the general fund to offset some of that cost. Last year we applied $1.4 million to the budget. And then I'll show you a slide that talks about how over the years we've been able to then put some money back in. And so it says that we're pulling the money out of the general fund, but in essence, we have not had to pull it out in past years. And that's usually is related to when we have positions that we're not able to fill for a period of time. So looking at the budgets that we have now, it's not like there's extra money in there for projects, but at the end of the year, with staff turnover and time to take to fill it over, we've been able to return money because of those shortages in staffing. I know that this is really hard to read, so you did get it in your packet, but this talks about the different departments and like the total percentage change. This is the equalized value for Waushara County and the change in equalized value for 2024. So this is what our mill rate has historically been. You can see that we have consistently been lowering our mill rate since 2021. Other than in 2022, it did go up for, some reason. But again, this year we are proposing a budget that does have, another lower mill rate. So we're trying to lessen the impact on the taxpayers. This is a new net construction. So, this is what impacts your operating budget. So the levy limit law says that counties can increase their operational budget by 2% or new construction, whichever is less. So in 2024, our new construction was 0.94%. That amounted to about $160,000. Our budget could go up within the levy limit. So again, luckily we did not have a health insurance increase, but that 160,000 didn't even cover any proposed wage increases for staff. So this is talking about if you have amendments, to get them to us so that we can get them on the agenda for next month. At executive, there was some question about what changes could we still make to be able to reduce the $1.5 million from the general fund. We do have the Sheriff's Department jail position that is about $102,000 that you could remove. We have asked the sheriff to look at the possibility of housing other county inmates to help get some revenue to cover the cost of that, but we don't have any contracts to date, so we did not add any revenue for that. We did recently have a person leave the Sheriff's Department in the jail that was been here for a couple of years. So hiring at new for that position would save us about $12,000. The Sheriff's Department did also tell us that they have added to their canteen the ability for inmates to purchase nicotine patches. And we don't have a lot of data on that because it just recently happened. But in the month of September, when it started, they sold 110 pouches. And so we got about just over $900 in additional revenue from that. There was some additional increases in the cost of some of the other items in the canteen. So if you're looking at a full year, maybe you have another $12,000 in revenue that you're looking at there. I know we're talking pennies when I'm talking 1.5 million, but I'm nickel and diming everything here. You can also remove the other half of the finance position. That's about $44,000. There is some money in the proposed budget to, as you know, we're in the middle of a wage study. We have very minimal amount of money in the administration budget, so that when we start talking about implementation, that amounts to about $34,000. Currently, we have 4 vehicles in the CIP for the Sheriff's Department. This year they only got 3. Last year they got 2, but in 2022 you had 5. So I don't know if you want to look at reducing the number of that. The committee had talked about what happens if we remove a road project. And so I did reach out to Kathy, who handles the money over at the highway department, and to figure out what that would be. And even though, so on the levy and as part of this budget, for County Road J is $681,000. Taking that money out will not impact our general transportation aids for 2025, and possibly not 2026. But what happens with the general transportation aids is that the state looks at how much money local governments pay on eligible highway related expenditures. And then they do an average over that of what is spent on every mile over 6 years. So in 2024, what is projected for us for 2025 is the first time that we're getting more money from the state in general transportation aids. It's the first time we've had an increase in years. So if you take out this project, while the grant money that we have that goes towards this can still be used in 2026, because it has to be spent before the fiscal year of 2027. You may eventually see an impact in your general transportation aids. So you have to look at what does it do for this year as well for next year's. So as our budgets for the highway department decrease, then the amount of money that we get in general transportation aids from the state also decreases. So right now we are decreasing the highway budget already about $40,000. And that includes still doing County J. The highway has been averaging about 28 miles of seal coating per year on county roads. In the last 10 years, they've been pulverizing and paving county roads with 2 layers of blacktop to make sure that the roads last longer. And we've added, and because of the larger farm equipment, we've been averaging about 7 miles per year of pulverizing and paving over the last 7 years. The County Road J project has state and federal funding attached to it. It goes along with the County Double F project that was completed in 2023. The total project sunsets on June 30th of 2027. There's an option to split the County J project in half, doing half in 2025 and half in 2026. So you could potentially take out part of that money if you're looking at lowering that budget. And then, but again, keep in mind every year, then you lower your average for continuing general transportation aids. We are continuing to look at solid waste in our contract with Waste Management. There was a big increase in the solid waste budget this year, and that is due to the increase that Waste Management has for the disposal of the different waste. So we are looking at that and what different options are for that. Megan and Sarah and I did talk about whether or not we would recommend taking out money from the highway. We're not recommending that for this year. It may be something that you need to look at for next year. We had another conversation with our auditor after we had proposed our budget. She assures us that we are in solid financial footing and that the taking out of the $1.5 million for this budget is not going to hurt the county's financial position. So
We're required to keep a certain amount in there, aren't we, in the general fund?
we are, what you're supposed to keep in is 25% of your operating costs, correct, Sarah?
Which is about 6.5 million.
If you did not hear that, it's about $6.5 million.
And what do we currently have?
We are at 10.8 million.
That's before we take out the 1.5.
Yes. And that's not knowing what will be returned again in 2024.
Okay, very good. That's a very good overview of the budget. Does anybody have questions or clarification on anything? Go ahead.
Just increase in medical examiner, $50,000 is that new position that was put in.
Yes,
Are you not reflecting the Marquette deal yet in the budget?
we are reflecting the Marquette in the budget. We did add that $70,000 into it.
So why is there such an increase then if you're reflecting that?
Well, because the original increase was $100 and some thousand.
And then the waste management fees, that's something you're gonna be able to able to see any reflection of that next year?
I think that we're gonna have to look at, trying to revise our contract. So when it came up, there was a concern because Waste Management had sent an email to us indicating that we were paying for, disposal of waste for residential pickup in the villages of Wild Rose and Red Granite. But they didn't say anything about the other villages that had contracts with them. So I, of course, had been talking to the Village of Wild Rose president, Tim Gansel, who works for us, and I had come from this meeting and I said, hey, Tim, you know, just off the top of your head, does Wild Rose have a contract with Waste Management? He said, oh, well, we just entered into a new 5-year contract. I said, okay, well, what does that cover? And, you know, he didn't know off the top of his head. So there was concern because they weren't mentioning all of the villages that we were paying for parts of villages and not other parts of villages, and that it was being paid by taxpayers in different ways, and why was it different? So in talking to Waste Management and looking at our Washera County Solid Waste Plan, when the county made the decision to close the landfill located in Washera County and ship the waste out to a different landfill, the decision was made that the county would pay for the disposal fee. So the information that Waste Management had originally given me that this only pertained to Wild Rose and Red Granite was false. In looking at our disposal things, there is a schedule with all of our compactors, and it doesn't list any of the residential pickup. So then I was like, well, how are you charging us if it's not in our contract, and whose contract is it in? So there is another addendum that wasn't attached to the original thing that they gave me from Waste Management that says, so waste that is picked up in Washera County, either from our collection sites or residentially, is then hauled out of the county to a landfill owned by Valley Trail. Valley Trail then charges us a disposal fee, and in the addendum to the contract from Valley Trail, it clearly states that the county is paying the disposal fee for all contracting municipalities, all rural and residential, all commercial businesses, everything that is picked up in Washera County and taken to Valley Trail. And so that we're paying $26.70 per ton. So I guess that what the question is going to have to be is that when we look to renew our contract, and then I got a copy of the Wild Rose contract, and the Wild Rose contract very clearly states that the service that they're paying for Waste Management is the curbside pickup, the trash receptacles, the picking up of the recycling, like those receptacles, like having a day where they bring out a larger dumpster for bigger household things and picking that up, but not the disposal fee. The disposal fee, then it says, is being billed to Washera County, and that the village would get billed for it if the county didn't pay that portion of the bill. So I think that as we look to update our solid waste plan, and as we then meet with our villages who are also contracting, we need to look at and see how can we structure all of our contracts to make this the most cost effective. And maybe it is the most cost effective coming through the county, because maybe we get a lower cost per ton if we're all working together. So is there a possibility for savings in the future? Yes, maybe. I don't know for sure, but I think that that is an area where, as we're updating our plans, I think we need to work with our municipal partners to try to structure all of our contracts together so that we get the best cost for the county.
Are they the only option?
Yes. Waste management and harder. There was a big blow up a couple of years ago and like we had a problem because we had GFL and we had waste management. And then like some of them took just the dumpsters, some of them took the residential pieces. And now like one of the companies is like doing like one area of the state and the other area of the state is being, there's not a lot of competition, but I think that as we continue to like look at this, I think that this is an area that we should look at. And I think that we should have a bigger conversation with everybody who is contracting to make sure that we're doing it right.
Okay, is there any other questions or clarifications? One thing, when you start looking this over, and like myself, when I look through, I always look for the big percentage changes and try and figure out what's going on. I mentioned to Ruth too, there was like a 32% change in the property lister. And I don't know if you want to go through that a little bit, but it was kind of just repositioning Andrew in that department. So when you look that over, kind of take that into account too.
Yep, so the property lister used to be split between 3 different budgets. And now that it is full-time with GIS and the property lister, we moved it to more properly reflect where he is instead of having part of his salary in different budgets. So yeah, if you got any specific questions, if I don't know the answer, I'm sure Sarah does. Just let us know.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions or you want to discuss anything? Otherwise, make sure you get your, any proposed changes you'd like to Ruth by October 25th. So is that the date?
This,
Oh, go ahead.
courthouse security, where is that being charged to? Is that charged to?
That's in the sheriff's department.
Yes. It is in the sheriff's department budget and they are part of the union contract.
I was told by somebody that it's way out of whack as far as. So I'm just curious if, has there ever been a comparison done to like other counties to see if we're reasonable in that regards or not?
Is that part of the union or would that be the wage study as well? Sure.
Well, it will have to be negotiated because they are part of the union.
And maybe not, I'm not saying what they're getting paid, I'm saying what.
Like the number of
The
people.
overall number for security for the courthouse.
I think that Wally is continuing to look at that. And part of is trying to figure out what the right schedule is. So we have that filled with some full-time people and some part-time people who are at different wages and different benefit structures. When both courtrooms are operating a full caseload in the day and you have one security officer in each courtroom and you have one at the desk, it works out well to have 4 people here because then you have one who can still like be outside. The courtrooms are very nice, but it's very difficult to see what's happening outside in the hallway while people are waiting for courtrooms while you're in the courtroom. So normally then that 4th person is like roaming around. If you have a day where like, so on my weekly parking update, I had sent out that there was a jury trial on Thursday and please park accordingly. And then today I was told that the jury trial settled and it's not happening on Thursday. So because that settled today, that courtroom will probably be vacant on Friday or on Thursday because there won't be time to like schedule anything within that period of time to give people announcements. So then you might look like you have too many people that day, right? Because you planned for this jury trial and now it's off. How do you make that adjustment to the schedule? So I know that it's something that Wally has continued to look at and I certainly can bring it up to him and we can look at it further.
Okay, well, as you can see, I mean, with $160,000, we're very fortunate that the health insurance didn't go up. And we were just talking in strategic planning, we've got to get creative and look for new ways to make the budget stretch. And I think we gotta really be thankful for the professionals that we have here that are looking outside the box and making this all work for us. So, but anyway, if you do have to make changes or want to make some changes, by all means, bring them forward. And that's so we can, we'll be voting on that November 5th for the budget. Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, very good. All right, then we'll move on to the treasurer's office annual report. Jessica got a hold of me, so you got that in your packet. But she was called away. She had a funeral that she had to attend. So we won't be having that this evening. So just go ahead and look that over when you can. And then you can talk to her about it if you have any questions. So we'll move on to part B, discussion, possible motion, action items. The first is the updates to the Washera County Procurement Code. Is there any, you've all had that in your packet. You saw the changes that were made. Is there a motion to accept the changes to that procurement code?
Or any questions?
Any questions?
Happy to answer questions.
Anybody willing to make a motion? Okay, motion by Peterson, second by Gray. Is there any discussion then on the procurement code? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll proceed to vote on that. Okay, and it passes. The changes to the procurement code have passed. Second will be just discussion only, the policy for the service acknowledgement resolutions. And now, I don't know if anybody looked into that at all during the month, since last month, because there was a question about that, you know, what should we do? Who should we be thanking, and how should we be thanking people when they get done working for us? Should there be a policy set in place? I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that. Megan did check with some clerks, and she just to get a little overview of what they're doing possibly.
Yeah, so we don't have a proposal for you. It's obviously up for discussion. I reached out just to some area clerks just to see what was done, and it's really kind of across the board. Some Juneau County does them specifically for folks who have worked for 20 years or more. Marathon County does not have anything set. Some counties do them, some counties don't. Green Lake County, they don't do resolutions, but they do a plaque for retiring employees who have worked for over 20 years. Marquette County does resolutions for all retirees. So just some options for you guys to consider. It's entirely up to you what direction you want to go, if you want to set a policy on that.
Okay, does anybody have any thoughts on that, or
One of the things that we've talked about is that we should try to retain our employees by doing certain things. And by not acknowledging somebody that has served the county for X number of years, as the county board did last month, which I was upset with that. I thought that was the wrong thing to do. But regardless, if you want to retain employees, you got to appreciate them, and you got to let people know that we do appreciate them. And so I think you ought to keep that in mind.
okay. Sounds good. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Allison.
I think for consistency and fairness, we definitely need to have a policy in place. I don't like the idea of not having one, and obviously there was some discussion, and I like the idea of retirees. I think we definitely need to acknowledge those folks. And then I think that we should probably set a year. I think 20 years might be too long. 10 years, 15 years, something like that, I think would be a reason to do a resolution. I don't like the idea of like what Green Lake does, spending money for a plaque. I don't think we need to do anything like that, but I definitely like the idea of recognizing our long-term employees who are either moving on from the county or retiring from the county.
Okay, all right. Good. Is there any other discussion?
So it kind of piggyback off both their comments. So I've seen in the past in manufacturing, they do it a lot. So they'll do it like a verbal acknowledgement of like 2 years of service, 5 years of service, 10 years of service, 15 years of service, 20 years of service. And then a retiree. And it's more of just a verbal acknowledgement. Maybe it's once a year, you send out an email saying, hey, all these people have, or once a month, these people have 5-year anniversaries this year.
And I think we do that in our newsletter, but I don't know that there's so much from the county board. So, and I think maybe, I guess I'm hearing that you'd probably like to see some kind of a policy set here for that. Maybe we can get a couple of you to get together to write that. So I'll name somebody for that. With Allison, if you don't mind doing it, Pat, if you wouldn't mind being on this as well. Okay, all right. And we'll bring something forward for that. So Bart, do you want to be a part of that as well? You know, okay. How about Dylan?
Sure.
Okay, the three of them then will get together and bring a policy forward that we can look at and discuss. So I think that sounds like a good idea. All right, is there any other discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the consideration of possible action on the following resolution. Resolution number 33-10-24, a resolution to make a sole source determination, and this is for the e-noise control sound curtains. You got some information in your packet. Do you want any more? Mike is here. I don't know if you need to, if you want to come forward, or does anybody have any questions, or does somebody want to make a motion to accept it? Motion by Mr. Piaski, is there a second? Second by Mr. Kirschner. All right, is there any other discussion on the e-noise sound control curtains for a sole source determination? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. Okay, the resolution passes. All right, with that, then we're up to board suggestions for future agenda items. And just to note that it will be 2 weeks earlier on November 5th at 6, our next meeting. So is there any agenda items someone would like to bring forward? Okay, hearing none, then I would look for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Waddle, is there a second? Second by Mr. Peterson. All right, very good. We're adjourned. Thank you.